Pete and Pete owns Bissell Brothers Brewery, probably one of the fastest growing, popular, kind of most loved beers in the state right now. It attracted national attention in its first year. The really awesome part about Pete and his brewery is that Pete and I have been friends for like 7 or 8 years. And I saw from the beginning when his brother was a freshman, or still in college at UMF, brew his first home batch, which I tasted, which was literally the worst thing I ever tasted. To now where they're getting voted as top 100 beers in the world in like Men's Journal and stuff like that. And Pete and I will always have conversations about what we would say if we had an opportunity to talk to people about talk about Godin and stuff, and just kind of, I read this and I read this, and so it was cool to kind of get Pete to get his energy focused into one thing for the most important relationship, and it's an honor and privilege to introduce Peter Bissell of Bissell Brothers. So.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Thanks for coming out. This is actually my first sort of public speaking engagement. I will harp on and on about all the stuff that I'm about to talk about for hours on end, so be careful if I'm in a bar or whatever, but this is the first time. And the time constraint, which is now ticking, is also interesting because I'm a yacker. So I was very excited when Kyle brought this to my attention, and when he told me the theme for the night, the most important relationship with respect to entrepreneurship is sort of where I look immediately. It's with yourself, and with respect to that, I want to talk to you briefly about the importance of self-reliance in entrepreneurship. So self-reliance was once commonplace. It was how the country was formed. The pioneer spirit, it can get, sort of hokey, but it was a real thing. You had to take care of yourself in your own, and that has sort of been lost on us in the recent decades. With it's one of the downsides of technology, I feel, is that sense that a lack of ownership. So I have 3 tenets that I want to touch on. And it's pick yourself, learn it yourself, and then risk it yourself. So pick yourself. This again is a reference I'm borrowing from Seth Godin right now. You have to, in entrepreneurship of any type, whatever you're aiming to achieve, you have to absolutely pick yourself. And what I mean by this, the phrase pick yourself is in relation to the fact that the culture that we live in, the society that we live in, grooms you subconsciously to wait to be picked. So we've all been, 5, 6 years old, and your parents ask you, or your teachers ask you, what do you want to do when you grow up? And you say things like a cowboy or an astronaut, and you're met with overwhelming positive reinforcement. You want to be a cowboy? That is a very viable profession, young man. That is amazing. You can be a cowboy. That is awesome. And as you get older and as you go through the formal education system, and if any of you are teachers, I'm not hating on you. I am saying that there is it's not just teachers, it's not just parents, it's society at large. That reach for the stars attitude is gradually stamped out. And by the time we're 16, 17, we're being pressured into college admissions. We're being urged to think realistically. We're being told things like, it's very competitive out there, this and that. And the result of that is, okay, I'm waiting to be picked. I need validation to do what I want to do, what I know I need to do deep in my heart. So I'm going to sit my resume on top of the stack of 100 that's going to be reviewed by someone that doesn't give a shit at a huge company. And the paradox is that in being funneled into mediocrity, the competition is more crazy than ever because we're all competing for mediocrity, and we got there because, again, society subconsciously pressures you into taking the safe route and taking the path that most people go down. And you have to pick yourself. The second you start picking yourself, it changes. You say, okay, you want to be a web designer or a web developer or a photographer. You do that. You need to tell yourself that. And sort of to get back to what Kyle said, he was trying to be something that he wasn't really. And I'm a brewer owner now, but I started as a photographer, and I really cut my teeth on a lot of these concepts there. And I would wait for, I would cold call magazines. Of course not, I was waiting for someone else to tell me that I was a photographer. And the second I owned that, I wanted to be a food photographer. So no one's calling. I'm just going into restaurants. I take photos of the food. I pay for it. I give them the photos as I build my portfolio, and then I broke through. And because at that point, I'm a food photographer. You know, I'm doing this. Here's some of this great stuff, and so on and so forth. I'm watching the time. I'm gonna segue. Sorry,
You're fine.
first time. So you have to pick yourself. You have to believe that you are what you are before you seek validation from someone else. You have to come to them as what you aspire to be. The second sort of tenet, learn everything yourself. Again, sign of the times, society. We want things fast and quick. You know, the internet doesn't work on your phone for a minute, you flip out. You have to get down to the ground level of the vocation or company that you're trying to start. You have to learn everything. The days of the passive business owner are over. There will come a time when you step away, and my brother and I are starting to do that now. We cut our teeth. I know neither of us had ever used professional brewing equipment. It was very scary, which is the next part that I'll get to. We learned every aspect of this because we had this idea, and he had this homebrew recipe that we knew we could bring and develop a culture within Maine. I know now how to change a centrifugal pump rotor. I know how to blow down a boiler and do all this stuff. And it's because we got down on the ground level, and it was scary and it was hard. But if I'm going to employ someone to do something, I need to know it first. And that's another thing that's really lost, that self-reliant attitude where, okay, no, I'm going to take ownership of this before I tell someone else how to do it. If you need to see the lay of the land in your business, in your industry too. If you want to get into something like brewing or web developing, whatever, you need to study exhaustively the playing field. And what this means is that your life will change. You can't go out with your friends as much. You can't take part in all those diversions that are around us all day, every day, TV and socializing in bars. You have to, you will feel your path begin to deviate because the lives of your friends and family and coworkers and whatnot continue to just go on as normal. So you will feel that deviation when you begin to choose, okay, it's Friday night, I'm not going to the bars. I really need to work on this business plan, or I really need to really study the market a little more to kind of find out where my product or my service is going to fit in. So you have to learn it all yourself first, and it's not easy and it's not glamorous, but you got to be self-reliant and take that ownership. So the last tenet is the scariest, and this is risk. And you guys clearly, look at entrepreneurship and business stuff. You've all heard about risk aversion and risk acceptance and how it's important. Running out of time, so I'm going to be brief. You have to, it's not, so many times it's sort of trivialized, like, oh, a leap in the net appears, this and that. To be a successful entrepreneur, I will be very blunt. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what you're trying to achieve. You will come down to a moment where you face down your worst fear. And you have to look it right in the eye. It's played out in every great movie, Star Wars. It's Joseph Campbell in the 60s documented this. We've told the same story basically throughout the course of humanity. It's called the hero's journey. And it comes down to you have to face your worst fear. You have to face it down. And this could be, for me with photography, I was broke and I literally had to make rent. But I got through it. So when I finally quit my real job and pursued photography full-time for the first time, I was terrified, but I got through it. And with brewing, we're talking more money than I had ever previously worked with. It was the scariest time in my life, was starting that company, but you did it. And if you can put yourself in a position where you have everything to lose, you will prevail, because we have no idea, you all have no idea like what you're capable of, because you've been brought up to follow the rules and stay within a certain framework of life. We have everything we need. If you put yourself, this is the most important part of the three, if you put yourself in a position where you have everything to lose, you will do it. I had no idea how we were going to start this brewery, but we signed a huge commercial lease, got a bank loan, and did a huge investment round for like $250,000 of people's money that I know, and benefactors and people that bought a chunk of our company. I personally worked my ass off for 2 years, bartending and doing photography, so I could bank enough money. I kicked in like 50 grand. If this money was lost, I don't know what I was going to do. It was the scariest time of my life. You have to face that down, whatever it may be. It might not be money, it might be different. Your spouse might argue with, your spouse might not agree. You have to face down your worst fear. And then the fun thing is that, the fun thing is that when you get through that, and you look around, you're still intact, the world hasn't stopped, the next thing you think of is, what else could I do? What's the next thing that I'm capable of? Because that when you get through it, it's like anything. You look back and like, well, that wasn't so bad. Like, I wonder what can I do, So that bit of self-reliance is absolutely the most important. There's gonna come a point, and if any of you are starting a company or have a company, you know what I'm talking about. There will come a point where you'll have to risk everything. So pick yourself. Pick yourself. Learn everything. Get on ground level. Get gritty. Take that ownership. Be self-reliant, and then you're gonna have to risk it all. You're gonna have to stare down that death stare, and it's gonna be very scary. But you'll come out okay on the other side. So. I feel like I'm built for like a forum. Let's get couches and like talk for an hour. But that was awesome. That was probably a little bit.